No light. That it's already too bright. When they do this, that's not because it was too bright. For mommy's talking, she's talking in the normal place. Okay, so when they open the curtain, there's light back there. So then for her, you have no problem. When I'm talking, this is the best you can do. This is what it's gonna be like. Slides. Why are you taping? Excuse me. Bobby. Give him a hand. I know this control this thing, but how you control everything else? How you go up and down?
This one here in the front.
Make this. Tighten it up. This is tight. Loosen this one.
Control it. I know.
What do you want to control?
This is fine.
Isn't it up and down?
No, this one here, Bobby.
That's what you control.
This one in the front. That's the pivot. That's he wants.
This?
Yeah.
You screw that one?
That's it. Okay. That's it.
Hey,
Thank you.
listen. You have to do.
Have to go slow. That's right.
Sometimes I know.
That's really good.
Graduation. Is it good?
Testing.
For who?
Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't think that's going unless there's a strong window.
Lead a group of 5 volunteers to fix. Tells me that he has tapes of all that's on the line, everyone. The conference sessions are available in the bookstore. More will be made as long as there are people wanting them. So no limit to the supply if the demand is great. We're going to open this afternoon session first with a chant by Gloria Ruhani in Arabic, and then Manager Mahadri will read the tablet of Amman for a number of people who are ill, or sick, or having some problem of one kind or another. This tablet includes anyone that you have in your mind or heart, or whom you wish for prayer. إنك سلطان القادر شهد الأنياب للحم الأحباب أن احفظ الأصحاب يا مالك الرقاب والحاكم في الماء.
Is the King, the all-knowing wise, lo, the nightingale of paradise, singeth upon the twigs of the tree of eternity, with holy and sweet melodies, proclaim to the sincere ones the glad tidings of the nearness of God, calling the believers in the divine unity to the court of the presence of the generous one, informing several ones of the message which hath been revealed by God, the King, the glorious, the peerless, guiding the lovers to the seat of sanctity and to the sublime beauty. Verily, this is that most great beautiful hope in the books of the messengers, through whom truth shall be distinguished from error, and the wisdom of every command shall be tested. Verily, he is the tree of life that bringeth forth the fruits of God. He exalted, powerful, and great. O Rahman, bear thou witness that verily he is God, and there is no God but him. The King, the protector, the incomparable, the omnipotent, and that the one whom he hath sent forth by the name of Ali, and this is holiness the vow was the true one from God, whose commands we are all conformed. Say, O people, be obedient to the ordinance of God, which hath been enjoined in the Bayan by the glorious, the wise one. Verily he is the King of the messengers, and his book is the motherhood, the achieved right now. Thus, doth the nightingale utter his call unto you from his prison. He hath but to deliver this clear message. Whosoever desireth to turn aside from his counsel, and whosoever desireth that he choose the path of his Lord. O people, if ye deny these verses, by what proof have ye believed in God? For Lucifer was somewhat of false ones. Nay, by the one whose hand is my soul, they are not and never shall be able to do this, even should they combine to assist one another. O Rahman, forget not my bounties while I am absent. Remember my days during thy days, that my distress and banishment in this remote prison. And be thou so steadfast in my love, that thy heart shall not waver. Even if the swords of the enemies rain blows upon thee, and all the heavens and the earth arise against thee. Be thou as a flame of fire to my enemies, and the river of fire, the current to my loved ones. And be not of those who doubt. And if thou art overtaken by affliction in my path, or degradation for my sake, be not thou troubled thereof. Rely upon God, thy God, and the Lord of thy fathers. For the people are wandering in the paths of illusion, bereft of discernment to see God with their own eyes, or hear his melody with their own ears. Thus have we found them, as thou also dost please. Thus have the thou sure in thyself, that verily he turned away from his beauty, and also turned away from the messengers of the past, and showed pride towards God from all eternity to all eternity. Learn well this tablet, O one man, chant it during thy days, and withhold not thyself therefrom. For verily God hath ordained for the one who chants it the reward of 100 martyrs and 7 single foes. These favors have been bestowed upon me as a bounty on our heart and a mercy from our presence, that thou mayest be of those who are grateful. By God, should one who is in affliction or grief read this tablet with absolute sincerity, God will dispel his sadness, solve his difficulties, and remove his afflictions. Verily is the mercy, the compassion. Praise be to God, the Lord of all the worlds.
The first chant, by the way, was a prayer to free those in prison from the claws of the enemy. Well, sitting under those trees and that wonderful weather we're having out there, I've been hearing a lot of things about what's been going on. And people come by and talk, and I roam around, and lo and behold, I'm hearing some very interesting things. One of which is the workshops this morning were exceedingly interesting and stimulating and of great interest. So that's one thing I heard. Another I heard is, have you met Tamare Adie? You met Tamare Adie? Isn't she great? She's wonderful. Because Mrs. Adie is a new board member for our area. And I said, sure, I am. And he said, well, isn't she great? I said, sure is. I knew that all along. She was born in Iran, and she's a 7th generation Baha'i. That's mind-boggling in itself. I'd like to hear about that sometime. Her early Baha'i life was spent in the city of Shiraz, where as a youth she was a member of a Baha'i youth club numbering 600 youth. She studied there and became a medical doctor in the same city, and she's well acquainted with many of the recent martyrs in that city of Shiraz. In this country, she served as a member and later as chairperson of the Spiritual Assembly of New York, a large assembly that is not like your 14 or 15 member assembly that we have in this area. It's hundreds. And this service she performed for several years. At the same time, she was an assistant to the auxiliary board member, who was the auxiliary board member at that time, Bob Harris, who is now a counselor. And early in 1986, she was appointed an auxiliary board member for propagation. She's married and has 2 children. And I believe her husband is a doctor, so she's wearing so many hats at one time. I don't know how she does it. So we're very, very lucky and fortunate to have this very special lady speak this afternoon to us. And we welcome you most open-heartedly.
Allah, I will I would like to recognize those responsible for this wonderful, wonderful weekend. You see, friends, we come here, we love it, we enjoy it. But only a handful of people were the ones who were in the core, responsible for all these. And I would like to call upon the names of the members of Massanetta Spring Baha'i School, who steadfastly have really carried this beautiful, beautiful responsibility and done a wonderful job. And then when I finish reading all the names, maybe we give them an applause. Roger Davis has done mostly with the child and coordinating all those education of your lovely children. Robert Keatley, who just was here to adjust my microphone, has done all the stage works and things around them. Amy Jordan, somebody said she's like a saint, and it's true, she talks so softly just like a saint. She's a wonderful and strong Baha'i. Flora Brooks, Christine Leonte, and Bill Brooks. You know, there are very few, but they did a wonderful job. Let's give them a hand. It was so appropriate that the session this afternoon, addressing the covenant, began with a beautiful invocation of Baha'u'llah about release of his loved one from the claws and suffering of the enemies. Do you hear me? Yeah, okay. Thank you. And also with Tablet al-Rahman. As I sat there and I heard it read, I felt that is the covenant. Baha'u'llah in that Tablet al-Rahman has given us his covenant. He said, through this revelation, truth shall be distinguished from error, and wisdom of every command shall be tested. God promised mankind from the beginning that he would never leave us alone, and he has kept the promise. Through the progressive revelation, God has provided for our nourishment, provided for our growth, and provided for the unity, which has through stages gone from the unity of the family to the unity of tribes, unity of the cities, unity of countries, to now unity of mankind. It is the power of that covenant which has brought you here today. When you look around and see your brothers and sisters from all over this state, from all over the country, from other countries as far away as Arabia, or I'm sure many other countries, it is that covenant, that promise of unity, which have brought us here together. It is the power of that covenant which has broken down all the walls and all the barriers. You all know that wonderful quotation about the power in this cause, that is said is far, far beyond the ken of men range. It moves the heart. It rends the mouth. It is a great time. It is an unusual time in the history of humanity. Never before in the history of mankind of the covenant after passing of the manifestation of God. Never before we have had a guardian of the faith to succeed at the center of the covenant. And even more amazingly, never before, we have an elected body given by God the guidance, the protection of being free from error, to be the source of great infallibility. Friends, let's not forget all these bounties that we have in this day. You know, I recently heard that in one of the Arab states, 10 friends wanted to become Baha'is. And you know, in those countries, it is not easy to accept them as a Baha'i. And Universal House of Justice are the only one who can approve of their becoming a Baha'i. And when the names were submitted, and Universal House of Justice consulted, their report was 9 of them were accepted, but 1 was not. And they had prayed several times, and they have come to that unanimous decision that that person should not be accepted. When the Secretary of Assembly had gone to this lady to express the decision of the Universal House of Justice, she started weeping, saying, I really did not mean to be a Baha'i. I just wanted to see and test their power of infallibility. You see, we may hear these words, but let's not such a nearness, such an intimacy with the history make us lose sight of its power. For this covenant and for this unity of mankind, Baha'u'llah himself suffered tremendously. Abdul Baha'i, in one of his tablets, referred to suffering of his father with great tenderness. When I read this, I wept, because realizing Baha'u'llah, that prince who could have had the most great, joyful, comfortable life, had to suffer all of his life so that we be freed from attachment to this world, that we be freed from self-pleasure. He said, the ancient beauty were ever during his sojourn. In this transitory world, either a captive bound with chains, or living under a sword, or subjected to extreme suffering, or held in the most great prison. Because of his physical weakness, brought on by his affliction, his blessed body was worn away to a breath. It was light as a cobweb from long grieving. Imagine, Baha'u'llah's body was like a cobweb. I never heard Abdul Baha speaking with such tenderness about his beloved father. Baha'u'llah also offered up his son, Badi, to bring you that unity of mankind. You all know this story, that Mirza Mehdi, son of Baha'u'llah, in prison, fell off from the roof while praying. And Baha'u'llah offered him up the gift that Abraham was prevented to offer, the gift of offering his son was offered by Baha'u'llah for unification of mankind. There were many I have to make an announcement. It's an emergency. Shaheen Izzadi's son, Mahruz Izzadi, is desperately looking for his mother. Definitely mothers should tend to their children's name. Firstly, Shaheen Izzadi is looking for Mahruz Izzadi. Very good. That was a good break. During the time of Baha'u'llah, there was this mujtahid. Recognize the station of Baha'u'llah and recognize the power of this revelation. You know, they wear these big turbans. And to those who come from Muslim background, this is the greatest sign of honor and respect, what they wear on their head. This man every morning would get up and go walking where Baha'u'llah has walked and take the dust off the path and take them to the sea, not wanting anyone to step on the dust on which his beloved Baha'u'llah has walked. It is that degree of love we need to acquire for Baha'u'llah, and that degree of understanding of the power of this faith. Let me share with you some beautiful, beautiful passages from Baha'u'llah's writing himself about the greatness of this faith. Whenever I read them, it brings me to a much higher level of love and understanding. It says, I testify before God to the greatness, the incomparable greatness of this revelation. Again and again we in most of our paths born witness to this truth, that mankind may be roused from its heedlessness. And he also said, that which hath been born made manifest in this preeminent, this most exalted revelation, stand unparalleled in the annals of past, nor will future ages witness its like. You may have known, or at least I always felt, that this is a revelation which hath reached to this height, and it will continue to the higher stage. But let me read this quotation of Baha'u'llah again, and you ponder on it. Baha'u'llah said, that which hath been made manifest in this preeminent, this most exalted revelation, stands unparalleled in the annals of past, nor will future ages witness its like. And then again he said, should the greatness of this day be revealed in this fullness, every man will forsake a myriad lives in his longing to partake, though it be for one moment we have not befittingly thanked him for such a great bounty. Let me share with you a beautiful story of such confirmation of the power of this faith. At the time Baha'u'llah was present in Baha'i, two of the Baha'is from Iran by the name Nabi and Mr. Malmiri went to visit Baha'u'llah, but at that time the door of prison was closed, so they could not have constant intimate time with Baha'u'llah. They decided the night before they leave from home that they wake up at middle of night or stay up all night and circumambulate this mansion of Baha'i where Baha'u'llah was. And as they did that, each of them would hear the sounds of joy and laughter. And they looked around and no one was there. And each of them wanted to share it with the other one, but fearing that they would think that they be insane, they did not share it. When they returned to Iran, each of them received a separate tablet and then a joint tablet for both of them from Baha'u'llah, in which Baha'u'llah told them, you heard with your own physical ears the sound of the joy and laughter of all the prophets of the past and of all the angels and inhabitants of heaven, circling this mansion rejoicing at the coming of the promised one. Do we know in what age we are living? Do we know the value of these times? Friends, we need to immerse ourselves in the ocean of the writing of Baha'u'llah. We need to meditate and ponder on the power of this revelation, and then to know what is our worth, what is our value. Let me share also with you a few beautiful passages from the writing of Baha'u'llah about who you are. In one of the writings of Baha'u'llah, he said, whosoever has been given the honor of recognizing this faith, somehow they have done something to make them recipient of this grace. This was paraphrasing what Baha'u'llah said. And it's a story that I heard that someone asked Abdul Baha, what have I done to make you so worthy of it? And then Abdul Baha said, once when you were a little girl and you were running in the meadows, you raised your arm up to the heaven and you say, oh God. And because of that warning, because of that yearning, you have been given the honor of recognizing this faith. So you have a very precious, very significant place because you have recognized God's manifestation for this day. But let me relate to Baha'u'llah's word himself. He said, blessed are the people of Baha. God beareth me witness. They are the solos of the eye of creation. They are the solos of the eye of creation. Or he said, if the veil be lifted, and the full glory of the station of those who have turned wholly toward God, and in their love for him, renounced the world made manifest, the entire creation would become foul. Or he also said, "O friends, be not careless of the virtues with which you have been created, neither be neglectful of your high destiny. Ye are the stars of the heaven of understanding, the breeze that is stirred at the break of day, the soft flowing water upon which must depend, the soft flowing water upon which must depend the very life of all men. The letters inscribed upon this sacred scroll. If these are not enough to make us rise to the occasion of promoting this wondrous message of unity of mankind, what else can recreate us?" Baha'i was a young and difficult child. Baha'u'llah recreated him and gave him this wonderful message to be taken to the kings. His response was so instantaneous that when Abdul Baha went to prepare a package of food for Baha'i, and Abdul Baha came back, they said, "Baha'i is already gone." I often begged Baha'u'llah, I said, "If you have the power to do that to Baha'i, please do something with me. It is all right. I think we could supplicate, we could beg God to recreate us, to make us a better human beings, a better Baha'is, lovers of mankind. But yet, as we see the growth in ourselves, let us not forget what is the source of our growth. There is a story that Baha'u'llah relates about a man named Balal. He was a servant in the court of Sultan Abdul Hamid, a very prominent king. He was very much loved by the king. As a result, he gradually went up the ladder, promoted, till he became prime minister of the king. And every day, the staff of the king watched him getting this suitcase, walking to this far corner, staying in this little place for a long time, and then come out and be himself. They were all very jealous of Balal because they saw him make such a rapid progress. So they told him that Balal was trying to do something to take over his kingdom. And as a result, he did send some friends to go and find out what this Balal was up to. When they went and they stood behind the door where he went every day, they saw him taking all of his clothes as a prime minister and put on these raggedy old garments and stay there a while. When the king asked him what was the reason for that, he said, "Every day I need to remind myself who has been the cause of my progress, so that ego will not overcome me. We do also need to every day remember who has been our life giver. There is that life to us. Otherwise, we will be like that young boy who was in the wilderness and he had this flashlight. And as the day turned dark and everyone was lost, they all followed this light. And all of a sudden he turned back, see all these crowds following him, and he said, oh my God, everyone is following me. And while he was so joyous and so happy, he fell down. And someone picked the flashlight. They stepped over him, and they went forward. So we need to always remember, it is not us. It is the light of the whole love shining through us. What should be our response then? What should be a befitting response of us as a Baha'i to this call? You see, there are times that we wish that God could really make a phone call and say, son, or John, or Harry, I would like you to go pioneer into Africa. And we would say, if God would do that, boy, we do it right away. True? There are times that we wish, if we are deciding to marry or not marry, that we receive a letter from God saying, I think you should marry. I wish also, but it doesn't happen that way. We know what is God's wish for us. God's wish is what universal laws of justice ask us to do. God's wish is a 6-year plan. We are faithful to the covenant if we strain every nerve of us to achieve the goals of the 6-year plan. And that is called God's phone call to us. At that time, you know, having such a direct answer could be dangerous too. There is the story that they said this man was really, really desperate for an answer to his crying need. And all of a sudden, he fell off this cliff. And as he's coming off the cliff, he grabbed hold of this tree trunk. And he looked down. And it was this big, big, deep ocean down below. He looked up. It was a straight, long stretch of path to go on. You can imagine that's a really desperate situation. And I'm sure many of us in our daily life come across those kind of situations. So he turned his head toward heaven and he says, God, please tell me what to do. And a voice came from heaven. He says, my son, let your hand go and immerse yourself in the ocean of my love. He looked down again. It was too far down. And then he looked up again and he says, is there anybody else up there? At times it could be dangerous also. So when we pray, we need to pray for what is God's will, not what is comfortable for us. Because there are many times that things contrary to our wish happens. And that could be the best thing which happened to us. In the Seventh Valley, Baha'u'llah talks about this man who was in love with this prince and was praying and yearning and crying. And all of a sudden he's being followed by these watchmen. And as he goes faster, these more and more watchmen are following him. Till he reached this straight wall. And with absolute desperateness, he climbs up the wall and jumps over to the other side of the wall, which was the king's palace. And that beautiful princess that he loved so much was there sitting waiting for him. We don't know what is the end result, but we need to have faith to give us things way beyond our imagination. Let me share with you another wonderful true story of the early believers. I'm sure one day many historians will write beautiful stories about the new believers. We have the stories of the old believers because of non-readers and because of many untranslated Baha'i history books. This one is taken from one of these untranslated Baha'i books. This is the story of the man from Nairobi, which I was very honored to visit one of his relatives. I can't exactly remember what was the relationship. And she is mother of one of the recent martyrs of Shiraz. And she also told me this story. It is a story of a man who, when he became a Baha'i, was submitted to great torture and difficulties. Every day they said they used to throw him in this pool of water and beat him so much that the water would get red. And then next day when they went to pick another prisoner to inflict the same torture upon them, he would say, he is too old, take him. This one is too young, take him. This one is too sick, take him. Every day, patiently, accepted all these sufferings. One day after he was very much beaten, he was thrown outside the village. And he had a dream of Baha'u'llah, who told him, we have prepared the way for you to come to Holy Land and visit us. And he said, Baha'u'llah, you know that my body is all broken down. You know that there is no need for me to travel such a far distance from Nairobi in the southern part of Iran to Holy Land. And yet his faith was strong. Next day, a caravan who was taking a group of pilgrims to Mecca, the Holy Land for Muslims, was passing by. And he was picked up because the chief of caravan had a dream the night before that Imam Hussein, the Imam of Muslims, the one who is very loved by Muslims, and Baha'u'llah sometimes refers to his meekness as return of the meekness of Imam Hussein. He had a dream that Imam Hussein had told him, I have a very dear friend, and I want you to take him with you to pilgrimage. Who could imagine that? He had a good time, a couple of months, traveling, and when he reached Baghdad, at that time, he said, dear friend, you've been good and wonderful to me. I have some business to do in Baghdad. Would you let me go? He said, no, I have to take you for pilgrimage. And he said, no, please. So he said, no. He said, listen, friend, the same Imam Hussein which came to your dream came to my dream too. He did not tell me to go to Karbala. He told me to go to Baghdad. And he fell on his feet. He says, you know, this is exactly what I heard in my dream. But I thought I misunderstood. And of course, he was led out in Baghdad. He went to the presence of Baha'u'llah. It was the first day of Islam. And Baha'u'llah revealed the tablet of patience for his wonderful, patient, sincere, faithful servant of his. And now we are blessed having that tablet translated and we can read it. This is the power of that reliance on Baha'u'llah. Who in this room can claim that Baha'u'llah cannot do the same thing to them? Why should we think we are no less or no more I'm telling you stories, and I know my time is coming to close. Let me also share another wonderful story of such transformation. To see that no matter who you are, no matter who we are, how limited is our resources, how sinful we have been, and how sinful we may be. Once we turn to the Holy, once we beg His guidance, not only one fast prayer in the morning and one, you see, and then say after a month, I've been reading my obligatory prayer, but nothing has happened. Pray and meditate, and then see the result. This wonderful man also is referred to by Baha'u'llah. When Baha'u'llah talks about the power of this revelation, he says this is the revelation who transformed a man like him. I wish I knew his name. In his tablet, Baha'u'llah referred to his name. And then this man was a robber, a killer, a very vicious man. He was so bad that when mothers wanted to put their kids to sleep and they didn't go, or they wanted to give them a spinach and they didn't eat, whenever they had trouble with their kids, they would just scare the kids by saying this man's name. He was very well known, and he was a very big man. One day this man decided it is enough of killing. I really have decided to be a better person. I want to be a good Muslim. So he went to this mullah, and the mullah said, listen, it's very hard. You have shed too many bloods. And I don't know if I could ask God to forgive you after all those difficulties you have given others. And he apparently said, fine, you can't do it, you be the next. That is good enough for him to come up with a quick solution. Wouldn't you? So, he said, I have an answer. There is an old man in this town. And this old man's granddaughter lived in Long Island. There is an old man in this village. And he called himself Baha'i. If you kill him, if you shed his blood, that may wipe away those other sins that you have committed already. He said, fine. I really had a life. He was very brave. I mean, I've done it so many times. It was nothing to worry. So he went, and when he reached this man's house, the man was sitting at the doorstep as if he was waiting for him. And then he went to him, he says, yes, you such and such, you so and so. You don't believe in Quran, you don't believe in this and that. And this man said, God forbid, I believe in God. I believe in Quran. And his sincerity touched his heart. He knew he spoke the truth. He became a Baha'i. And then Mr. Furkan said, I went to that village and visited this man, which was an old man. The same man, he said, that was such a source of power, was walking in those same streets, allowing children to spit on his face, allowing friends to throw rock at him, but yet he bore all this difficulty because of his love for Baha'u'llah. Let us not lose sight of this great power which is invested in this wonderful, wonderful mighty revelation. And as tasks become difficult at times, as we find ourselves overcome with the weight of this world aids and difficulties, which is not to be underestimated. Our test in this country is not a physical test. You try it. You go to the street right now and ask someone, kill me, I'm a Baha'i. You go to TV and say, I'm a Baha'i, I want someone to come and martyr me. No such knocks. They won't. We need to live the life in this country. And no one said it's very easy. Who said it's easy to be a Baha'i? But it is joyful, it's wonderful, it is challenging, it's growing, it is fulfilling. And it is for that reason that we need to arise. And we need to take the initial step. Bob Harris said once that this man always cried and said, God, please let me win lottery ticket. Have you heard that? Okay, it's nice. God, please let me win. And he had good intention. Probably he wanted to give to charity or something else. Or go pioneer. God, please let me win. And he wouldn't win. Again he'd go and this time he'd pray and meditate for 2 hours, 3 hours. No luck. And eventually one day when he was really fainting while praying, a voice came from God. He said, my son, give me a break. Go and buy a lottery ticket. I can't say that because Bob Harris says. But if we don't take the first step, if we don't plant the seed, how could we pray for this beautiful flower to bloom? Let us, friends, plant the seeds of virtue, the seeds of love, the seed of caring, the seed of unity in our heart, and then make Baha'u'llah to water it. And since this is the 4th epoch and the 6-year plan, and the theme of this 6-year plan is going to be the theme of covenant. And we all are going to come together in 1992 in such a joyful gathering, the Second World Congress, estimating about 50,000 Baha'is in the city of New York. Let us think about covenant and what does it mean. And let us, as Abdul Baha has asked us, turn our face to him, supplicate in that beautiful prayer of visitation, asking that he fills us with great humility that we can offer our life in his path. I would like to close my talk with a habit of hesitation. He is the all-glorious. Oh God, my God, lowly and tearful I raise my suppliant hands to thee, and cover my face in the dust of that threshold of man, exalted above the knowledge of the learned and the praise of tears before thy face, calling to thee and beseeching thee, saying, O Lord my God, give me thy grace to serve thy loved ones. Strengthen me in my servitude. Illumine my walk with the light of adoration in the court of holiness and of prayer in thy kingdom of grandeur. Help me to be selfless at the heavenly entrance of thy gate, and aid me to be detached from all except thee. And aid me to be detached from all things within thy holy prison. Lord, give me to drink from the chalice of selflessness. With its draught clothe me, and in its ocean immerse me, make me as dust in the pathway of thy loved ones. And grant that I may offer up my soul. And grant that I may offer up my soul for the earth
sing.
Yellow face. We are all brothers and sisters of the human race. We are the people of Baha'i. 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 Teach all the children of the world to read and write, but teach them first of the power of unity's light. We are the people of Baha'i. 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 Choose a single language for the world, then the banner of the unity of man will be unfurled. We are the people of Baha'i. 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 Massanetta's gonna catch on fire, because the spirit of Baha'is gonna get higher and higher.
Okay, let me start. Baha'is are here because of him, and we are endlessly grateful. Our Lord let us have him. Our Lord let us teach him about the faith. Our Lord let him teach us about peace. And we are very happy.
Children settle down and find their parents. Let me just say that I had attempted to conduct a music workshop this year, and I'd like to do so next year. And what we came up with this year, we're performing for you right now. Very impromptu. I found some people who wanted to help me. Pamela Ray, Mary Ellen O'Brien, and Jamal Reimer. So let's give them a hand. And we're going to perform for you a song that is on my tape, Promise of Peace.
short story, if you want, that I picked up from the tape of the late hand of the cause, Mr. Barbusi, who spoke at the Jubilee in 1963. And in that tape he says, one day in Washington, when the beloved master was driving to his third meeting of the day, very tired, his face lighted up with that divine radiance, which was his, and said, "O Baha'u'llah, what hast thou done? O Baha'u'llah, may my life be sacrificed for thee. O Baha'u'llah, may my soul be offered up for thy sake. How full were thy days with trials and tribulations, how severe the ordeals thou didst endure, how solid the foundations thou hast finally laid, and how glorious the banner thou didst hoist." Indeed, these words of the Master echo in our hearts today as we are soon going to host this conference. As Dr. Atiye said, the motivating force is the love for Baha'u'llah. And with that in our hearts, we have come here, and with more of it, we are going back to our communities and continue with the service of the cause. Well, I'm now to introduce our friend Baha'i here, that many of you know. I've been given some information that I should have known. Any signals? I'm sorry. Bobby is 16 years old. He lived in South Carolina during a teaching project when he was 13 and a half years old. He is a member of the RYC in Pennsylvania. And he and his sister in 1986 initiated a peace club at their school. Peace club being based on the principles of our faith. And that peace club has gained some 150 members so far. When he was 5 years old, he made his mother, Dr. Atiye, promise that she, the family, would take him to Greenacre every year. And they have done that either going to Greenacre or going to other Baha'i schools. And of course, his identity has been strengthened through these experiences of attending Baha'i schools and conferences. And that's why I personally feel that it's so important that we bring our children to these events, even though there are times that we may not see them for hours, but then again the spirit is there and they gain a great deal. I can't help it but thanking the children's teacher over and over again for what they are doing, staying behind the scenes and doing a wonderful job. Bobby is a strong defender of the principles, the Baha'i principles among his peers. And he is one of the 2 high school students serving on a 9-member committee to appoint a new principal for his high school. Apparently, they have been one of the 92 students, that's it, 9-member committee. Bobby, would you please go ahead with, he's going to, of course, tell stories about Abdullah and portrait of our beloved master.
It's truly an honor to be up here today and to look out at all your wonderful faces and to really feel the unity that's been generated by this gathering. You know, really, I think we can never underestimate the power of unity, because where there's unity, there exist those attributes and those principles that allow us to bring peace to the world, allow us to grow spiritually. In fact, we've been told specifically that so powerful is the light of unity that it can illumine the whole world. When in 1912, Abdu'l-Baha visited America, he blessed her shores forever. For 239 days, he visited and inspired friends. As he bade farewell to the tearful crowds in New York Harbor, he addressed them in these beautiful and moving words. Look at me, follow me, be as I am. Take no thought for yourselves, whether ye eat or whether ye sleep, whether you're comfortable, whether you're well or ill, whether you're with friends or foes, whether you receive praise or blame. Look at me and be as I am. Each of us must strive daily to follow the example of the Master. Though often this is a difficult task, we must consistently and constantly strive to embody those principles which we find in his daily life. There's a story that once Abdu'l-Baha was walking along the beach with Lord Getzinger, the herald of the covenant. And as Abdu'l-Baha would step in the sand, she would place her feet in his footprints. He turned to her and he asked her what she was doing, and she responded that she was following in his footsteps. Suddenly, a moment later, a scorpion bit Lua. Of course, this was very painful, but she held it in because she didn't want Abdu'l-Baha to see her. Tears came to her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away so that Abdu'l-Baha would not see her. And finally, when they had finished their walk, Abdu'l-Baha turned to her and lovingly told her that this is what it meant to follow in his footsteps. We as believers in this dispensation are very fortunate and blessed to have an example like Abdu'l-Baha. No other revelation of the past has had such a figure. Shoghi Effendi has said that Abdu'l-Baha fulfills a unique function, not only in the dispensation of Baha'u'llah, but in the entire field of religious history. As a perfect exemplar, we have in Abdu'l-Baha an example of all for which we strive. During the 6-year plan, as we ourselves formulate our plans for these next 5 years, we have in Abdu'l-Baha an example or a beacon of really what we're striving for and all that we're looking to accomplish. For in his life, in his daily life, we see that his work went into the fields of growth, development, integration, all those fields for which we, in this day and age, continue to strive to achieve. So I hope that my few stories will help to give a glimpse of one who sacrificed all his life for the cause of Baha'u'llah and will inspire us to study his life to a greater extent. Abdu'l-Baha's intense spirituality was a characteristic he possessed throughout his life. A well-known beautiful story is that of Howard Colby Ives, a Unitarian minister who, after studying the faith, desired greatly to meet the Master. So when Abdu'l-Baha came to America, Mr. Ives traveled to where he was, but upon arriving, he realized that he didn't have an appointment, and so he wouldn't be able to see the Master. And so when suddenly Abdu'l-Baha turned to him and beckoned to him to come with him, he was of course very surprised. And then Abdu'l-Baha dismissed everyone else from the room, including, to everyone's surprise again, the interpreter for him. Ives explains that Abdu'l-Baha took him by the hand and led him to 2 chairs by the window. It tells us that Abdu'l-Baha softly told him that he was his very dear son. He says in his own words, "Then we sat in 2 chairs by the window, knee to knee, eye to eye. At last he looked right into me. It was the first time since our eyes had met with his first beckoning gesture that this had happened. And now nothing intervened between us, and he looked at me. He looked at me. It seemed as though never before had anyone really seen me. I felt a sense of gladness that I was at last at home, and the one who knew me utterly, my Father, in truth was alone with me. With that, the heart within me melted and the tears flowed. I did not weep in the ordinary sense. There was no breaking up of feature. It was as if the long-pent stream was at last undammed. Unheeded, as I looked at him, they flowed. He put his 2 thumbs to my eyes while he wiped the tears from my face, admonishing me not to cry, but one must always be happy. And he laughed. Such a boyish, ringing laugh. It was as though he discovered the most delightful joke imaginable, the divine joke which only he could appreciate. I could not speak. We both sat perfectly silent for what seemed a long while, and gradually a great peace came to me. Then Abdullah placed his hand upon my breast, saying that it was the heart that speaks. Again silence, a long, heart-enthralling silence. No word further was spoken, and all the time I was with him, not one sound was uttered from me. Suddenly he leaped from his chair with another laugh as though consumed with heavenly joy. Turning, he took me under the elbows and lifted me to my feet and swept me to his arms. Such a hug, no mere embrace. My very ribs cracked. He kissed me on both cheeks, laid his arm across my shoulders, and led me to the door. That is all. But life has never been quite the same since. I think that if we strive to create the same intensity and the same devotion and spirituality within us, just to the smallest extent, and create the same aura about ourselves, I can really see how much we can accomplish, how much more we can accomplish. As we've been told, that when a Baha'i enters a town, they should be recognized as a Baha'i, as though it was written on their forehead, as though Baha'i was written on their forehead. I think that if we strive for this same spirituality and this same devotion, we can truly achieve such a feat. Another important area for us to study and understand is the relationship between Baha'u'llah and Abdul-Baha. Abdul-Baha was known to show the utmost humility, respect, and reverence for the Blessed Perfection. When the Master would go to visit his father at the mansion of Bahji, he often rode a mule. As soon as he could see the mansion, though, he would dismount and walk the rest of the way. His reverence towards Baha'u'llah was an example to his companions, as well as to us in this day, of the respect we too would strive to possess. Abdul-Baha was truly humble in all respects. He himself asked to be called a servant of Baha. He says, "My name is Abdul-Baha, my qualification is Abdul-Baha, my reality is Abdul-Baha, my praise is Abdul-Baha. For all into the Blessed Perfection is my glorious and refulgent guide, and servitude to all the human race my perpetual religion. No name, no title, no mention, no commendation have I, nor will ever have, except Abdul-Baha. This is my greatest yearning. This is my eternal life. This is my everlasting glory." Once when a child asked Abdul-Baha why all the rivers flow to the ocean, he replied that, quote, "because it sets itself lower than them all, and so draws them to itself. In this same way, Abdul-Baha humbled himself, and thereby attracted all to his side. And in the same way, we too, by becoming this humble, can create the same force of attraction. For in today's world, one attribute that it's very rare to see, that you'll find is humbleness and humility. And truly, if we can create that within ourselves, we can truly attract people unto us. Another of Abdul-Baha's outstanding qualities was his love for all mankind. His love was showered upon all, regardless of color, creed, or class. Abdul-Baha spoke of love as one of the most important attributes. Once when asked what is Baha'i, he replied that to be a Baha'i simply means to love all the world, to love humanity and try to serve it, to work for universal peace and universal brotherhood. That's all. Just those three things. To love all the world, to love humanity and try to serve it, and to work for universal peace and universal brotherhood. That's such simple tasks are what we strive to do. And so I really feel that if we really devote ourselves to it, it's something that all of us can achieve. At another time, we used a beautiful example to explain why we should regard all humanity as our brothers. If you should receive a letter from a loved one, which is in an envelope that's torn and dirty and ripped up, you'll cherish it nonetheless. It doesn't matter that it's dirty or ripped up. Because it's from someone you love, it's special to you. And in the same way, he said, we must love all of humanity because they are all God's creatures. Once during the London luncheon, a gift was brought to Abdul-Baha from Persia. A traveler passing through Turkestan, Ishgalad in Russian Turkestan, was approached by a poor laborer who knew that this man would see the master, but he had nothing with him except for his dinner, and so this is what he gave to this traveler to bring to the master. So Abdul-Baha lovingly accepted this gift from this man and opened and ate of the hard bread and the shriveled up apple after sharing it with his guests, and yet he didn't even touch his freshly prepared lunch. Earlier in his journeys, Abdul-Baha was in a Paris hotel where many people came to visit him. Among these was a poor black man. Though this man wasn't a Baha'i, he loved the master very much. One day, the management sent him away, saying that he did not meet the standards of the hotel. When Abdul-Baha learned of this, he was very upset and told the man who had done this to go and bring his friend back. He said, "I did not come to see expensive hotels and furnishings, but to meet my friends. I did not come to Paris to conform to the standards of Paris, but to establish the standard of Baha'u'llah." Another attribute for which Abdul-Baha was well known was his detachment from all things but God and his lack of concern for his own personal comfort. Once while in one American city, the friends kept asking if Abdul-Baha liked his hotel. He turned to one of the believers and said, "The friends here are anxious to know if I like these rooms. They do not know what we had to go through in the past. Imagine the conditions and surroundings when we were imprisoned in the barracks at Acton. Baha'u'llah occupied one room. His family and several other families were forced to occupy one room. Aside from the severe illness that was raging and the death of many among us prisoners, I noticed that my own presence in that crowded room was another source of torture to all of them. This was due to the fact that parents and children were suppressing and restraining themselves by trying to be quiet and polite in my presence. So, in order to give them freedom, I accepted the morgue of the barracks, because that was the only room available, and I lived in it for about 2 years. Now the kind friends here wish to know if I like these magnificent rooms." Clearly, if we can strive for just a small measure of this attachment, we know that we can reach the same state of perfection that Abdul-Baha possessed, and yet just a small measure of it, it seems, can help us to achieve so much. If we're detached from all that belongs to the physical world, think of how many barriers that stand in our way to greater service to the cause will be removed. Abdul-Baha grew up at a time of the earliest martyrdoms, endured the imprisonment of his father as well as his own, and with his death brought the heroic age of the faith to a close. The trials and tribulations of his life created in him great courage. In 1907, while in Akka, a Turkish commission arrived there to investigate the situation of Abdul-Baha and decide what was to be done with him. Just before their arrival, Abdul-Baha had a dream that a number of birds shaped like sticks of dynamite had flown from the boat and circled around his head for a few moments, but then finally returned back to the boat without exploding. He explained to the friends that the meaning of this dream was not clear. Then a few days later came the report of the commission calling for the immediate execution of Abdul-Baha. Immediately, the ship of the commission left the Bay of Haifa and began to head towards Akka. friends were very fearful that the commission was coming to take Abdu'l-Baha away and to execute him. And Abdu'l-Baha alone paced back and forth silently in his courtyard, totally unconcerned with what was happening. And suddenly we see that the ship changed direction and began to head back towards Constantinople. An attempt had been made on the life of the Sultan, and when finally the report of the commission was submitted, it was simply pushed aside and forgotten in the commotion caused by this. Abdu'l-Baha's kindness was something that was recognized immediately by all with whom he crossed paths. His kindness was unconditional and was showered upon all, whether black, white, American, Persian. In his farewell address to America, aboard the Celtic, he admonished us with these words: "Beware lest ye offend any heart, lest ye speak against anyone in his absence, lest ye estrange yourselves from the servants of God. You must consider all his servants as your own family and relations. Direct your whole effort towards the happiness of those who are despondent. Bestow food upon the hungry, clothe the needy, and glorify the humble. Be a helper to every helpless one, and manifest kindness to your fellow creatures, in order that you may attain the good pleasure of God. You must look towards each other and then towards mankind with the utmost love and kindness. You must be kind to all men. You must even treat your enemies as your friends. You must consider your evil wishers as your well-wishers. Those who are not agreeable towards you must be regarded as those who are congenial and pleasant, so that perchance this darkness of disagreement and conflict may disappear from amongst men, and the light of the divine may shine forth. Until man reaches this station, the world of humanity shall not find rest, and eternal felicity shall not be attained. But if man lives up to these divine commandments, this world of earth shall be transformed into the world of heaven, and this material sphere shall be converted into a paradise of glory. This is eternal glory. This is everlasting felicity. This is immortal life. This is heavenly attainment. This is being created in the image and likeness. This I call you. Pray to God to strengthen and bless you. One example of Abdu'l-Baha's expression of this kindness is the well-known story of Fred Mortensen. He was a man who had been a convict all his life. And one time, when attempting to escape from the police, he had jumped from a 35-foot-high wall, and as a result broke his leg. His attorney, it turned out, in addition to getting him off, was a Baha'i who told him of the faith. And so when Abdu'l-Baha came to America, Mr. Mortensen greatly desired to go and visit him. To get to Greenacre in Maine, in LA, Maine, where Abdu'l-Baha was, or from Cleveland, where Mr. Mortensen was, would be rather difficult though, since he had no money. And so he decided that he would travel by train. He decided though that because he didn't have money, he wouldn't travel the way you and I probably usually do. Instead, he decided he would ride the rails. And so after many days of travel, he reached his destination, quite dirty and ruffled by all his travel. And upon arriving, he was surprised when, of all the people gathered there, it was he who was called to meet first with the master. He himself explains what happens next. He welcomed me with a smile and a warm hand clasp, telling me to be seated. He sitting before me. His first words were, "Welcome, welcome. You are very welcome." And then, "Are you happy?" which was repeated 3 times. He was then asked more questions, including one which he had hoped to avoid. "Did you have a pleasant journey?" Of all the questions I had wished to avoid, this was the one. I dropped my gaze to the floor, and again he put the question. I lifted my eyes to his, and his were as 2 black, shining jewels, which seemed to me to look into my very depths. I knew he knew, and I must tell. I answered, "I did not come as people generally do, who come to see you." Question: "How did you come?" Answer: "Riding under and on top of the railway trains." Question: Explain how. Now as I looked into the eyes of Abdu'l-Baha, I saw that they had changed and a wondrous light seemed to pour out. It was the light of love and I felt relieved and very much happier. I explained to him how I rode on the trains, after which he kissed both my cheeks, gave me much food and kissed the dirty hat I wore, which had become soiled in my trip to sea. Later, when Abdu'l-Baha was preparing to leave Maine, he asked Mr. Mortensen to accompany him to Massachusetts, where they spent 1 week together. Another story is that while in Akka, there was a woman who, each day, as Abdu'l-Baha would pass her home, would throw rocks at him and would curse him as he was a Baha'i. This went on daily for many years, but one day Abdu'l-Baha noticed that he couldn't find this woman, that she wasn't throwing rocks. And so he inquired as to her whereabouts, and upon learning that she had fallen ill, he immediately went to the hospital to see her and treat her with the utmost love and kindness. And this just made me think, how many times have we in our daily lives, with one small incident, become so angry at someone, something small, they insulted my clothes, they made fun of something, be nice to them, love them? No, it just won't work. They were not kind to me, so I can't be kind in return. Even though we might not be vengeful, still, we often feel some animosity towards such people. And yet, Abdu'l-Baha, after all those years, still was ready to go to the hospital and visit this woman. And in that same way, we must try to condition ourselves to react to people's actions towards us. Coupled with his kindness towards all mankind was an unconditional happiness that was visible for all to see. This happiness, as he himself tells us, was brought about by sacrifice and service. We would always ask friends, are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy? He told us always to be happy because joy gives us strength, while sadness makes us weak. Once when a reporter expressed his sadness about Abdu'l-Baha's 40-year imprisonment, he explained that he was happy while in prison, because there he was serving humanity. One attribute of Abdu'l-Baha that each of us must daily strive for is that of prayerfulness and devotion. From his childhood, Abdu'l-Baha was recognized in this aspect. When Stanwood Cobb, a Baha'i educator, met with Abdu'l-Baha for the last time, he was told to be on fire with the love of the kingdom. In these few words, Abdu'l-Baha expressed the essence of the Baha'i teachings and his own intensity and devotion regarding them. Another story speaks of his prayerful attitude. Once while in New York City, Abdu'l-Baha told one of the friends that if he came to his home at dawn the next morning, he would teach him to pray. And so this man left his home at 4 the next morning to arrive at the home of Abdu'l-Baha at 6. But upon arriving, he found that Abdu'l-Baha was already deep in prayer. So he seated himself, making sure to be directly across from the master. And after a little while of waiting, he realized that Abdu'l-Baha was very deep in prayer, so he too began to pray. First he prayed for his family, and then for his friends, and then for the crown heads of Europe. By now he's becoming quite impatient. Looking around the room, he began to scratch his knee and rub his back. He was becoming tired, and he began to listen, and he heard the birds outside where they were singing. And then after about 2 hours had passed, he was looking around, getting quite impatient. He noticed a big crack in the wall. Starts at the ceiling, went down to the floor. But then suddenly glancing at Abdu'l-Baha, and seeing him so rapid with devotions, he too longed to pray in that way. And suddenly he found himself totally able to clear his mind and to absorb himself in his prayers. Just at that moment, Abdu'l-Baha rose and came to him and told him, when you pray, you must not think of your aching body, nor of the birds outside of the window, nor of the cracks in the wall. When you wish to pray, you must first know that you are standing in the presence of the Almighty. Clearly, this intense spirit of devotion is something for which we all must strive. Abdu'l-Baha's attachment from all belonged to the material world enabled him to be generous and give lovingly of all his belongings. Once when Abdu'l-Baha was just a child, he was visiting shepherds who cared for the thousands of sheep his father then owned. When the master was leaving, he was told that it was customary to leave a gift. Abdu'l-Baha, not having anything with him, decided to give the shepherds all of his father's sheep. When Baha'u'llah heard of this, he laughed and said, "We must be careful about Abdul-Baha. Someday he will give himself away." This actually brings us to an attribute that Abdul-Baha held in abundance. There are many stories about Abdul-Baha's sense of humor, and I'd like to tell a few of these. Once while in Haifa, Abdul-Baha told Harlan Ober that he was to travel to India. Harlan Ober, as we all know, traveled a great deal across all corners of the world. At that particular time, he really didn't want to go to India. But he had to agree, and he said, okay. And then a few days later, for some reason, Abdul-Baha came to him and said to him, told him that he was to go to America. But Master Ober said, "I thought I was going to India." "So did Christopher Columbus," replied the Master. Lady Blomfield tells the two stories that took place while Abdul-Baha was in London. One day, arriving home after a long and tiring day, Lady Blomfield felt very upset about all the stairs that Abdul-Baha had to climb to get to his room. But suddenly, Abdul-Baha ran up the steps and, looking back at them, at her and her companion with a quite very unfatigued smile, said, "You are all very old. I am very young. Through the power of Baha'u'llah, all things can be done. I have just used that power." In another story from Lady Blomfield, Abdul-Baha said to have sat down at Christmas Eve dinner and explained that though he wasn't hungry, Lady Blomfield had been very insistent, and so he'd come down. Two despotic monarchs of the East had not been able to subdue him and bend his will, he said. But the ladies of America and Europe, because they were free, gave him orders. Finally, the last story of Abdul-Baha's sense of humor took place at Greenacre Baha'i School, which I'm sure many of you have visited. One morning at breakfast, a man came to Abdul-Baha and told him that the night before he had a dream that he was Moses. So Abdul-Baha just quietly assented and agreed and went on his way. But then early the next morning, at 4 the next morning, suddenly the man heard a loud knocking at his door. "Moses, Moses, wake up, Moses, wake up, Moses." The man, of course, was very tired. He wasn't happy about this, but it was the master, so he felt obliged to wake up. So he got up. And the next morning, again, it's 4 in the morning. Master, Moses, Moses, wake up, Moses." And the guy was very upset, 4 in the morning. But of course, he had to wake up. So after 4 or 5 mornings of this, the man didn't get up from his bed. He just called from his bed to the door that he had another dream the night before. It turned out that this man, during the last hours of his earthly life. Another anecdote, Abdul-Baha once told Lua Getzinger to go and take care of a man, a poor man who he wouldn't have time to go and see that day. So she left, but she quickly returned and explained that his home was filthy and it smelled, and the man was very sick, and she couldn't do it. But he told her to return and admonished her with these words: "Dost thou desire to serve God? Serve thy fellow man. For in him dost thou see the image and likeness of God." As it was with Abdul-Baha's life, every day we should be of service to others. We are assured by Abdul-Baha that service is prayer. Abdul-Baha once spoke of the importance of service in these beautiful words: "Behold a candle, how it gives its life, how it gives its light. It weeps its life away drop by drop to give forth its flame of light." Abdul-Baha gave up all he had, not just what he no longer needed or wanted. Too often, when it comes time for us to give, we give only those things that we don't need anymore or are no longer in fashion. But Abdul-Baha gave everything to bring happiness to others. Once when his wife was going on a journey, she gave her daughter an extra cloak, as she knew that he would give his own away. His daughter was not to tell him that she had this cloak, but a few days later, he came to her and asked her if she had a cloak for him. And of course, she had to tell the truth, and she said that yes, she did have a cloak. So he took the cloak and he gave it away and explained that he couldn't be happy having 2 cloaks when he knew that someone else had none. We too must treat ourselves to sacrifice in such a manner. Only when we do will we be rewarded. Abdul-Baha has written, "Until a being setteth his foot in the plain of sacrifice, he is bereft of every favor and grace. Every favor and grace, not most favor, every favor and grace. And this plan of sacrifice is the realm of dying to the self, that the radiance of the living God may then shine forth. One story of sacrifice told often by Abdu'l-Baha was the story of a woman who, following this incident, came to work in his home. In Iran, she had been married to one of 3 brothers for about a year, when one day all 3 of them disappeared. For many weeks they had no news of their whereabouts, but then one day they saw a mob coming down the road, carrying the heads of the 3 brothers atop long sticks. As they reached the house, they threw these heads over the wall into the courtyard of her home. But the woman, washing them off, threw them back, saying, "What I have given to God, I shall not take back." This, Abdu'l-Baha said, was true sacrifice. We as followers of the faith of God for this day must learn to sacrifice in the same way. This very day we have our chance to, by our sacrifices, in the same spirit as the burning candle, make productive changes in our world. Even at this very moment, the sacrifice of the Baha'is of Iran has made possible our emergence from obscurity and is enabling us to be able to obtain worldwide peace, the worldwide peace that the universal justice tells us in the promise of world peace is at long last within the reach of the nations. Abdu'l-Baha himself tells us, if you desire with all your heart friendship with every race on earth, your thought, spiritual and positive, will spring. It will become the desire of others, growing stronger and stronger until it reaches the minds of all men. Many of the martyrs, too, have spoken of their desire that all the Baha'is of the world should valiantly rise up. And have readily welcomed martyrdom should it enable and cause the Baha'is of the world to arise. But at this stage, it is not merely enough to simply do this, for we must arise with distinction. Abdu'l-Baha tells us, "For you I desire spiritual distinction. That is, you must become eminent in distinguishing morals. In the love of God, you must become distinguished from all else. You must become distinguished in loving humanity, for unity and accord, for love and justice. In brief, you must become distinguished in all the virtues of the human world, for faithfulness and sincerity, for justice and fidelity, for firmness and steadfastness, for philanthropic deeds and service to the human world, for love towards every human being, for unity and accord with all people, for removing prejudices and promoting international peace. Finally, you must become distinguished for heavenly illumination and acquiring the bestowals of God. I desire this distinction for you." For many of us, though, this still remains quite difficult. But Abdu'l-Baha reassures us again, saying, "And now I give you a commandment, which shall be as a covenant between you and me, that ye have faith, that your faith be as steadfast as a rock, that no storms can move, that nothing can disturb, and that it endure through all things, even to the end. Even should you hear that your Lord has been crucified, be not shaken in your faith, for I am with you always, whether living or dead. I am with you to the end. As ye have faith, so shall your powers be, and blessings be." This is the balance. This is the balance. This is the balance. But as we faithfully rise up, upon what can we look to as a guide? There are, of course, the writings. But as I've already explained and reviewed by my talk, we also have the example of Abdu'l-Baha to which we can look when in doubt. And that's really something that Abdu'l-Baha is our perfect exemplar. Perfect exemplar. When we really think about it, what does that mean? That means whenever we have any doubt in our minds of an action, or when we're concerned of whether or not what we're going to do is proper or right or correct or Baha'i, then there it is, our perfect example. And in the stories of Abdu'l-Baha, we can find anything. Anything that's bothering us, anything that's questioning us. There we have our example. Before you take any action, one thing you can try to do is try to see the face of Abdu'l-Baha. Imagine his heat to who you speak. When angered, pause, take a breath, and imagine that you're looking into the face of Abdul Baha. Another thing to imagine is that each moment is the last moment of your life. Think that in 10 seconds, you'll be gone. And just think that for what you're about to do might be what you're going to be remembered for all eternity. That the last word he said was, the last thing they did was, and realize what do we want to be remembered for. We must strive day and night to reach the highest level of spirituality we can attain. Abdul Baha himself explains, at the gate of the garden, some stand and look within, but they do not care to enter. Others step inside, behold its beauty, but do not penetrate far. Still others encircle this garden, inhaling the fragrance of the flowers, and having enjoyed its full beauty, pass out again by the same gate. But there are always some who enter, and becoming intoxicated with the splendor of what they behold, remain for life to tend the garden. Once we reach the stage of total devotion, everything else falls into place. In reading the stories of Abdul Baha's life, I found him the perfect example of the actions in every area we've been called upon to work in. Abdul Baha devoted himself entirely to service of the cause. And as a result, when I look at the goals of the 60th plan to carry the healing message of Baha'u'llah to the generality of mankind, to increase the involvement of the faith in the life of society, and the other goals, we see that every action that Abdul Baha took was fulfilling these goals. We must create such devotion in us that we long to serve the faith, and we see the honor of it, so we long with full desire to serve the faith. As Abdul Baha in the tablets of the Divine Plan also says, oh, that I could travel, even though I'm put in the utmost poverty, to these regions, and raising the call of Ya Baha'u'llah in cities, villages, mountains, deserts, and oceans, promote the divine teachings. This, alas, I cannot do. Please God, ye may achieve. Let us, at this moment in time, look to the call of Abdul Baha, to his example of seeing what was needed and arising with wholehearted devotion to spread this precious message of Baha'u'llah to all mankind, and ourselves arise to great deeds for the cause, inspired by the call of Abdul Baha in the last hours of his earthly life. Friends, the time is coming when I shall no longer be with you. I have done all that could be done. I have served the cause of Baha'u'llah to the utmost of my ability. Oh, how I long to see the loved ones taking upon themselves the responsibilities of the cause. Now is the time to proclaim the kingdom of Baha'u'llah. Now is the hour of love and union. Amen. I am waiting to hear the joyful tidings that believers are the very embodiment of sincerity and truthfulness, the incarnation of love and amity, the living symbols of unity and concord. Will they not gladden my heart? Will they not satisfy my yearning? Will they not manifest my wish? Will they not fulfill my heart's desire? I am waiting. I am patiently waiting.
Well, already the members of the committee steering committee for Massanetta were all of them, and one of them is still, while very tired, he is not the only one, and they have worked very hard. Bob, especially, Roger Davis, Amy Jordan, Flora Brooks, Christian Lee, and Bill Brooks. They have worked hard throughout the year, and throughout this conference, they have been behind the scenes, I must say, and serving constantly every minute. I'd like to thank them on behalf of you, and thank all of you for making Massanetta Conference as is by your participation and the spirit that you have brought to this conference. We were extremely honored to have one of the members of the Board of Council from Arabia, Mr. Massanetta, with us, and few words of love that he shared with us and done for Baha'i. We are very, very thankful to all of the distinguished speakers, all of the wonderful facilitators. Many, many thanks to you from all of us and from the committee. One person that you don't see very often is Judy Weldon, who helped Roger Davis with the children's program. I want to especially thank her too. I'd like, on your behalf, thank Don Davis, of course Bob Keithley, Tom and Ron Keithley, for all of the recordings that they have been doing. That's a signal for me to shut up, excuse the expression. And I'd like to thank